What's up, everybody? Welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron. Today we're checking out the new album Lore by the German metalcore band The Narrator. They formed in 2017, and after dropping a handful of singles and an LP, they have finally released their debut album. Despite not having a full album release for the past 7 years, they were able to gather over 200,000 Spotify listens a month, and they have over 2 million listens on their first single that they released for this album titled Purgatory. The single sees them going back to more of their hardcore roots, since their last two singles that they released in 2023, Frontier and Lucid, were a little bit more butt rocky. Purgatory gets right to it with a bouncy riff and very unique distorted vocals. I love the rhythm in the chorus, and the chorus has a good sound to it. The cleans are a little generic, but the little bit of grit that they add in the vocals helps keep it sounding a little fresh. The lyrics also aren't too inspiring either, but it's really easy to look past, especially with the ARFs going in the breakdown and the super heavy outro. Then we have the second single they released, No Answer, which features Elwood Stray. It also has insanely heavy verses. The cleans in the chorus have a little bit more creativity to them. It definitely has more of a bridge feel, at least the first time around. It gets a little bit more chorus-esque the second time around. It just has that really good Eye of the Storm vibe to it, especially sandwiched between the brutality that is verse 2 and verse 3. And then you think it's going to get a little bit more chill as it goes into the bridge, but nope, it's just ramping itself up for the breakdown that's going to rip your face off. Devastator was the next single that they released, and it shows more of their softer side, at least to some extent. The intro's got a really good melody from the vocals and the lead guitar shredding it up a little bit. The verse is right up in your face, though, and the chorus is just a more passionate version of the intro. They do a really good job, though, at going in between the really heavy verses and the more clean, hooky, catchy choruses without making it sound like they're just copying what everybody else is doing. And I think that has a lot to do with the music as well, and just the overall songwriting. Like, the breakdowns have more substance to them musically than a lot of the radio bands that have been doing this for decades. They then released the single The Witch, which is basically as brutal as you would expect it to be. The verses have a very quick vocal delivery that matches up with the rhythm nicely. It's definitely more for a live performance to get the circle pit going, get everybody amped up, especially with the outro being as hardcore as it is, but I still enjoyed it a lot listening to it at home and with my headphones on. Then the next single they released was Die Down, and this really keeps the energy going. I really enjoyed the song, but I also have to acknowledge that it's pretty generic. Even the lyrics have some cliche lines saying caught in the undertow, which is a line that just about every single band has used at least one point or another. The breakdown has very strong Wage Wars quality to it, and all these singles, all the heaviness and kind of tiptoeing that edge of sounding like high octane metalcore that you would hear on the radio, but still sounding pretty good at the same time, are pretty confusing if you just ignore them and you just throw the album on and start at the beginning and you hear the song Breach, which is the opening track, because it is full of synth and it doesn't sound too original whatsoever. The production also swallows up pretty much all the nuances, so you have to really try to listen in to hear all the cool sounds that the instruments are making. Stained Glass Reality is kind of the same in terms of sounding like most other modern metalcore bands. The chorus has a really good sound to it, though. It's super catchy and it'll get stuck in your head upon the first listen. The chunky guitar going back into the verse is pretty sick, and it just sounds too like everything else. I like it, but at the same time, it's just very generic. I mean, you could hear this type of music basically anywhere from any other metalcore band. And then we have the song Compulsions, which is another huge hype track, much like The Witch, but to me it sounds a little bit better due to all the openness that the music leaves and also the vocals. It lets it breathe a lot. Both of these two mechanics between the vocals and the instrumentation they just have a good pace of just going back and forth, and it really gives it that stompy effect. The clean vocals also don't show up until the bridge, which is a really nice change of pace. It's only a 2-minute long song, but to me this is one of the best tracks on the record. Sinister is also pretty creative, but in a generic way, if that makes any sense. The pre-chorus is very unique. It's not something that you would expect to hear. It's not really anything that I've ever heard before, but the chorus is as generic as it gets. The breakdown does help though, and it's very unrelenting, kind of punching you in the face way. And that brings us to the closing track, Impaled. It has a very familiar sounding vocal melody. The verses are really good though, and the distorted vocals have a good flow with them, with the drums, which could basically be said about the breakdown as well. The vocals just add to the heaviness as it matches up with the rhythm. I feel like this song does a really good job at finishing the album up and closing it up nicely. It gives a good conclusion to the struggles of mental health, but also dealing with acceptance at the same time. Even though this record isn't perfect, I still enjoyed it for the most part. It definitely has its moments that stood out to me. The lyrics, while not always the most inspiring, they were still pretty relatable. Some of the songs, I mean, they were just as cliche as it could possibly get. The music hits hard, even though the production doesn't really help out all that much. Nothing really stands out other than the drums more than anything else. The riffs are great, and the moments when they did break through the mix, it just sounds good. It catches your ear. But I will say that the tone of the guitars don't really change all that much. There were a few moments where like the lead guitar had some really cool licks and it just sounded really good. And the breakdowns were always engaging for the most part. I mean, it is kind of rinse and repeat throughout this entire album. There's not really a whole bunch of different sounds going on, different songwriting techniques. So a lot of the stuff just kind of sounds like they're just doing the same song over and over again, just with tiny little tweaks here and there. But again, like I said, I still enjoyed it for the most part. So I got to give Lore by the Narrator a 6.4 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Even though this band has a pretty decent following and listening amount on Spotify, they're still very new. This is their very first record. I'm sure a lot of you guys haven't listened to it. So if that's the case, go ahead and give a couple of these songs a listen. Let me know what you thought of the record, what you would rate it, and what your favorite song is. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. Doing that helps out so much with YouTube's algorithm. And if you want to help support me and my channel further than that, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. That way, not only will my videos be showing up in your recommended feed, you might also get some notifications if YouTube wants to notify you, I suppose, through the bell icon, because sometimes it's kind of hit or miss with that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to me talk about music. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.